Yeah, and also the long-term impact of true sustainability has also been geared towards creating long-lasting positive changes in the industry and society. And like visible sustainability may rather be like a short term and also driven by trends. And in our industry, it appears that we are more inclined to discuss sustainability trends rather than fashion trends. So as like in the fashion industry, you have kind of fashion trends. We have in like our sportswear and outdoor sports industry.
So hello everyone to the second episode with Circularise and Mesbah tonight. Hello Mesbah, nice seeing you again. I think tonight we're gonna have some fun and some really interesting learnings and insights from our very, very special guest that we have today. And it's René. Hello, René.
Hello, good evening, Matthias.
Hi. Tell us first, because not everyone knows that René is René Bethmann from Vaude. But tell us first maybe a bit about you, because we always like to start with the person behind the other microphone, so to speak. And I know you already because we've met already a couple of times. We also just talked about the fact that you also met Mesbah a couple of times. So it's going to be a very cozy atmosphere tonight. And we always like to start with, before we actually nerd out into, chemistry and science, because I guess we will do, with the person behind on the other side of the microphone. So tell us more about you, René. Which company are you working for, and what's your role, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so hello, my name is René. I'm working at Vaude. I'm working as a senior innovation manager and also as a consultant for our Vaude Academy. And yeah, so how did I get there actually? That's the question now. So I try to make it short, but also including the crucial parts in it. So my journey in the textile world began when I graduated actually in clothing and textile engineering. And however, it wasn't long before I realized that textiles had a unique and profound effect on me and myself. And during my academic years, I embarked on a path that would eventually lead me to a career deeply intertwined with fabrics and materials. So actually, it was that I studied actually also clothing engineering, so also clothing design, the construction, but actually the materials, there was always some kind of magic that I just felt in there. So I first ventured into the industry with a premium bicycle brand in Ticino in Switzerland, and started working the product development and gradually transitioned into the realm of materials. So it became kind of evident to me that achieving the perfect cut and fit in clothing was crucial, but my heart in the end was drawn more to the allure of materials themselves. So,
but how does bikes and textile come together?
Actually, a lot of textiles are nowadays used in the bicycle production because carbon fiber bicycle frames. So actually, it's textile. You can say, right? So, but actually, it was it was the clothing. It was the apparel we made. So the company also invented actually the first Lycra bicycle pant in the world. And also the company invented the first carbon fiber bicycle frame ever. But they haven't done a patent on that, so that's another story. Yeah. So later on, then after a few years, I spent there in Switzerland. And then I made a significant move to Norway, joining an outdoor brand and worked in the textile development. So just textile development. And but however, after also a few years, I eventually found my way back home. So to my home country, Germany, where I became then a part of Vaude, and
And
yeah,
what is
Vaude.
an innovation manager doing at Vaude?
Yeah, what I'm doing. No,
I guess it's just managing innovation, right?
yeah, but also executing. So I'm really much in an executing role, meaning that I'm also managing innovation processes when it comes to material. So in fact, everything which has to do with a material, with a textile, with a membrane, and with sustainability, and also with kind of new technologies, new also joining technologies. So joining technologies, meaning in this case of joining textile sites together. This is somehow ending up on my desk. So every question regards that is coming to my desk. And so I'm also working very much in the pre-development, so advanced development, meaning I'm actually connecting supply chains together, supply chain partners, stakeholders together, technology providers to bring in the end like a new product onto the market. And a new product, I mean like a new material technology usually. And due to the fact that we at Vaude, we have a really strong focus on sustainability, that's why everything we're doing needs to be, so we need to be really confident about what we are doing, what we are using also, and need to have an answer to more or less every critical question. And that's why I really have to dig so much into detail. I need to learn everything about that and also to defend in the end the technology and also doing lobbying in the end on the political basis. That some kind of technology is becoming more accepted because often they are super new and people have not that many ideas about that. So it's also here important to teach not only internal the people but also externally the stakeholders and
So,
NGOs and yeah.
sounds like a very interesting job to be at, like like a funnel where all these new exciting things, and to be honest, there's a lot of new exciting things happening right now. How do you deal with that? Like there's like a gazillion different innovations in all kinds of different areas, in apparel, and in software and AI and all of these things. How do you funnel that, and how do you make sure you're not spreading yourself or the team too thin, because you do need to really go into the details where the devil is usually, and make sure you have it fully covered. So sounds to me like quite a challenge, and you can go from one place to another very quickly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the good thing is that I do have kind of a focus. So I do have a focus that I know what I want. I know also what Vaude wants and the needs actually to perform the transition, so away from the fossil fuels and also integrating innovative technologies. So I also exactly know what they don't need actually. So a lot of things which are also coming on to me in the beginning, also from external. I say no, sorry, but we're not the right partner for that. That's not in our focus. So I'm really focusing on specific material topics. And due to the fact that over all those years I'm working in the industry, that's more than 17 years now I'm working in the industry, that you have some kind of connections. You also know, okay, what is working, what is not working. And even if there were some failures in the past, you learn so much due to those failures that in the end you can evaluate like a new technology in future much better. And that's actually what I'm constantly doing. I'm evaluating if it's something what makes sense or not, and then really also selecting out what doesn't make sense in the end. And you mentioned KI and AI. Yeah, I just try to follow it up. I see it's so important actually, and it's also makes my job a bit easier, just a tiny bit easier. But there's so much more into that, and especially when we're integrating those AI, especially when it comes to traceability and also about how to managing actually like material efficiency in the resources use. Uh, so there's so much open, and there's like a complete new open world in front of us, and I'm really excited about that.
Anything you can share from the current things that you've seen that you're particularly excited about? Maybe in AI or something else?
I'm still really fascinated about what kind of pictures you can generate with AI while just giving some prompts in. And that's really fascinating when I'm looking also now when it comes to like clothing design, so the apparel design,
Mm.
and also like general product design. You get so much more options, so much more inspiration, and that's really fantastic. So that's really like a new world. It is just like your companion on a journey.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sustainability as well, one of your very conscious also brand pathways that you're following since many years. And I think that's also something that we can dive into, like how AI maybe can support in finding the right track in this complexity of what is more sustainable, what is less sustainable. But since we know each other already, and I know that you are also very passionate about sustainability personally, I thought I would start with a bit of a provocative question and ask you, how would you define sustainability?
Wow, yeah. Let's putting it like this in the end. You can actually say that you can have like two kinds of sustainability. So like something which is visible,
Yeah.
like the visible sustainability, and also some kind of a like genuine sustainability, like true sustainability. So and the visible sustainability is often driven by marketing and by public relations, and like true sustainability that reflects more like the company commitment to make fundamental changes in its operations and product design. Yeah, and also the long-term impact of true sustainability has also been geared towards creating long-lasting positive changes in the industry and society. And like visible sustainability may rather be like a short term and also driven by trends. And in our industry, it appears that we are more inclined to discuss sustainability trends rather than fashion trends. So as like in the fashion industry, you have kind of fashion trends. We have in like our sportswear and outdoor sports industry, we have a kind of sustainability trends. And um, it's good in some way that it just puts some attention onto that. But on the other hand, it's also kind of quickly forgotten, because then it's like the next big wave of like a new topic coming up. So first was microplastics, then it's about like LCAs, and it's about biodiversity, deforestation. So and then it's probably in future water scarcity. So they're always coming up like more and more like hypes, trends, and it's also really interesting how people are reacting on that, and especially on the term sustainability. It is usually a very emotional topic. And also when you're discussing with people about microplastics and micro fibers, in the end, it's a very emotional discussion. And so it's also with sustainability. It's a very emotional discussion, while like the really true sustainability you can find on the craftsman just the next door, who is doing everything by his own and with his own hands. And he's not
Yeah.
communicating about that.
On that side, from Vaude's side, how do you commit to sustainability, and how do you make that happen then? Because there's a lot of hypes, there's a lot of emotion to it. What is your strategy to really poke through all of that hype and emotion and do something that's actually credible?
Yeah, so we have like a long-term goals, long-term company goals, and long-term company sustainability goals, a bit also based on the SDGs. But also we know that we need to go away from the fossil fuels, meaning the fossil fuels are huge problems, or just creating a lot of problems. So that's why we know we need to go away from the fossil fuel. And yeah, I need to more or less make like a concept and like a strategy of how to do that and how to proceed here. So there are small steps, but what I can say now is there are so many options right now available and existing that it would be in theory possible to just switch completely to like non-virgin fossil materials.
Yeah, now you just mentioned it, right? Like the material side, because it's also kind of our overall topic is especially the sustainable material technologies. So you just said there are already many options, and of course, like us as material and chemistry nerds, we might know the options. But what are particular options that you think have a very good potential to be, real alternatives to current material technologies, which are, knowing the outdoor industry is mainly, polyester and other synthetic fibers. What kind of non-fossil fuel based technologies or materials do you think, or would you say can be the future also for this industry?
That's a good question because, in fact, here also I learned so much in the last years. When you would ask me the same question now, 6 years ago, I would probably giving you a complete different answer. Now I can say that first of all, to have like a roof, like an umbrella about all of those topics is about thinking that we need to switch to renewable carbon. Like we know for renewable energy, we know there are different input streams to get renewable energy. The same concept we also need for the renewable carbon, because more or less everything we're using, everything out there is made out of carbon. So we also cannot talk about like a decarbonization, because it also would mean that we need to eliminate ourselves as human beings, because we also consist out of carbons. So in fact, that's why we need to defossilize. So defossilization, that's a key point. And for the renewable carbon, we also know that there are certain kind of input streams where you can get there. So you get like the biomass, you get the recycling, and you also get the CCU, like carbon capture and utilization. So taking CO2 emissions from exhaust pipes or even from direct air capture, and that transform them into like chemicals. So we know all those, let us say, basic input streams. And when it comes now to the materials, it's also kind of funny because in the textile world, thanks to the Textile Labeling Act, we just know like the material family groups. Like we know polyester, we know the nylons, but we don't know what kind of polyester is it now, because polyester consists out of dozens of different material types. Some are even bio-based and really biodegradable, and some are just like the conventional PET. And the same for the nylon. So are we talking about a nylon 6, nylon 6,6, nylon 11, nylon 10,10, and so on? So that's a big question when it comes also to the end-of-life perspective. And that's also like something what I also learned in the last years, that when you're thinking on the beginning of life of a material, so that it comes from renewable feedstock, you also need to think about the end-of-life possibilities. And that should be in the end recycling, when it's not like... or when it will end up in in the environment. So some kind of materials and some textiles, they will end up in the environment, like geotextiles, for example. But actually, you should prefer the end-of-life option, recycling. And when you're now introducing like complete new material types into the system, how to deal with that, because we have already so many challenges with the existing material types. And that's why for me and also for us in the company as a strategy, what I defined is that we need to focus on the existing material types and just trying to find here like different kind of sustainable routes, because we also know that like with renewable energy, there's not a single source in the end possible. We need like certain kind of sources, different sources, and every source in the end, well, and every feedstock will have the pros and cons. But you also need to lever out what is in the end a better option than like taking the fossil ones. No? And perhaps we talk later also a bit more about the fossil ones. And that's why looking on PET, for example, that we also understanding that we mostly use in the textile industry not polyester, we're using PET. And
What's the
also some other.
difference? What's the difference for a 5-year-old?
Okay. Polyester is a family.
Yeah.
And like PET, and that's not pet like the animal. So, so the PET actually, that's like one part of the family, like the mother or the father,
Yeah.
something like this. So it's a type actually. It's a material type and a material family. I hope, yeah.
I just want to quickly go to what you said
Okay.
before, Rene. You were talking about you were talking about we should um, prefer recycling as the end of life solution. What do you imply that we shouldn't try to repair or reuse, etc., or is it more nuanced than
Yeah.
that?
Good point, because we are always talking right now. That's also the big hype in our industry. We're always talking about textile recycling. We need to recycle everything. No, recycling is very much on the bottom of the waste hierarchy and also circular economy laws, actually, because on the first priority should be always like prolonging the life of the of the
Exactly.
product due to enhanced repairability, where we at Vaude are also working very strongly on that. We also making our products more and easier repairable. We have also created like a repairability index for that, where we can rate our products, how easy they are to repair and to maintain. And yeah, maintenance also, and then also giving them like a second life. And when we're ending up in recycling, to be really honest, I don't know when this will be also for our products, because a backpack lasts easily 15 years. And if you take a lot
Yep.
of good care on the backpack, it even will last over 20 years. So, and the same with the clothing. Yeah, of course, when you take in like socks, yeah, socks, they might, they're not lasting that long. But for me, it's always so personally very difficult to just find myself in the position where I just throw away a lot of textiles in the end owning. And that's also about the recycling hype that we're looking on other industries where recycling is happening. It's not happening perfectly, but it's evolving. But that's in the packaging sector. So we are just comparing our long-lasting products with like single-use packaging products. And I guess it's also might be a bit misleading, because we should not make our products in that way that they've been just used like one time and then been thrown away and recycled, make a new product out of it. Just a bit like with packaging, it should be not that way. Huh?
No, absolutely. I'm very much aligned with that, and thanks for clarifying that. Because I've often said, and I'm not sure if you actually agree with that, but I've often said recycling is indeed the last resort, the last loop you want to do,
Yeah.
but it's also the only mandatory one, right? Like you could do all the prolonging of life as much as you want. Products will end up at the end of life at some point, right? They can only repair or reuse or something so many times, and you want to do it as much as possible. But at some point, you have to be able to recycle it back to the materials or components. And and kind of bring it back into the economy. So it's the last resort, but also the only mandatory one.
Yeah, but looking at those loops, and now maybe from also this kind of like brand point of view, where do you see like the bigger leverage? Do you see in terms of closing the loops? Do you see it in the material technologies used, or do you see it more in creating the right design, the ecosystem to actually, yeah, prolong these or create more options to close the loop along the life cycle?
It will be probably the design, because this will gain the attention of the consumer. Because I can have the most
That's
fanciest
interesting.
materials in there, when the consumer is not recognizing it, he will not buying it, or he
Yeah.
is not renting it, or whatever. He's not getting it. And that's why I see like the material part that should be in future like more the mandatory part. And like the designing part, that's where you have a bit more freedom actually, and that's where you can express your brand also with it. But you also now we are a bit limited on that with the design, because when you take a T-shirt, you cannot make an H shirt out of it, right? So it just has some kind of rules in the end, because your body is also, yeah, you just get normally 2 arms, 1 head, 1 body, huh, 2 legs. So in the end, you get some kind of boundaries, and within those boundaries, you need to deal with and you need to work with. But that's why there are designers out there who also can create something inspiring. And as we talked before about AI, I'm pretty sure that AI now gives you much more ideas and brings you also onto the next level of designing also sportswear gear. To get a new touch. But in the end, we making products which have a purpose. Huh? So they need to protect you. They need to support you during your activity. So we're not really doing only fashion products. So it's really something what you need to have when you're doing your sportive activity.
And how about traceability? Like, because now that we talked about of not only it's the recycling, right? So that you need to make sure that the one who is in the end recycling knows what's in there, and also of course the one who buys the recycled raw material also knows where it came from. But also when it comes to these new business models like trace, where you have, I don't know, renting out and monitoring also maybe some damaged parts so that you know when to repair and stuff like this. That's also probably driven by technology, because there are new technologies that enable this transparency. And now we have also Mesbah here from Circularise being one puzzle piece of this ecosystem. Do you also already actively employ these new technologies also at Vaude in the development and design process? If you can talk about it.
Yeah. So I can say so that's a very honest. I'm a big fan of Circularise, and I genuinely appreciate the approach. However, at the moment, we are still struggling with the resources needed for this, especially financial resources, to be honest. But our first step, actually, in this journey that's involved also but establishing full transparency within our supply chain. Because a lot of brands don't know from where the yarn is coming from. They know, okay, I got the fabric, so I got the fabric from the supplier, but who's the weaver? What is the dyeing mill behind? And where is the yarn coming from? Where is the polymer coming from? Where is the source of the polymer or of the monomers coming from? So all those information, that's just practically not there actually, and it's like indispensable to just constantly collect and manage this data before integrating it to a relevant platform. So we need to be first knowing our supply chain. And I also don't think that like a new system will that help us much on that, because I think it's also important for yourself that you need to know where your stuff is produced and where your stuff is coming from, because then you can answer many more questions also. And you also know in the end, when you are on the way to climate neutrality, where you get some screws you can turn and you can tighten, and where not. So
How are you planning to then tackle that, to get that level of traceability that is not there? Do you have any
yeah,
ideas
so
on how to
right now
solve
we
it?
are collecting a lot of data. We are collecting data also, like very simple data, what kind of material type it is, for example. Because according to Textile Labeling Act, again, we just know it's a polyamide. We don't know if it's a
Yeah.
polyamide 6 or 6,6. And I bet with you that about 80 or 90% in our industry do not know if they're using like a polyamide 6 or a 6,6, and why they're using a polyamide 6 and why they're using a polyamide 6,6. So it was in the past maybe not that important, but now, as you mentioned, Matthias, that okay, the recycler needs to know what's in there. They need to know what kind of material is in there. And if I just say it's polyamide and it's maybe polyamide 6, and the process, and the recycling process, so depolymerization process is actually meant for polyamide 6, but not for polyamide 6,6, then you might have a problem. And that's why it's important to get those data first in-house, to get those data somewhere in your own PLM, in your own product lifecycle management, an own ERP system, and then actually to to just transfer it to the product, and also to have like a consistent data transfer. You need something what actually you're doing, and also to actually minimize the manual work and guarantee the utmost of data quality and security. So I currently view blockchain technology as essential.
What are the challenges that you face when communicating this? Like, imagine we would have this data, right? Like, I know that's like the first challenge, very valid. We would have that data from the supply chain, hopefully in the short future. Do you already think about how that would pose it? Because I think most consumers wouldn't really care or understand. So how do you translate that to consumers in a way that they might do care or understand, and try to like leverage
Yeah,
that existence of that
yeah,
data?
that's a good question. To be honest, I cannot answer it clearly, because in the end, for the end consumer, those data is not really that important. So for them, it's not really important where actually the yarn is coming from, or what kind of denier, or how many filaments the yarn has, and what kind of dyeing method is applied on, what kind of additives are onto that. I don't think that the consumer is really into that.
When it comes to sustainability, and what do consumers care about? Do they care about like the carbon emissions, for example, or whether it's recycled versus
Yeah, so
virgin?
the funny thing is that the consumer actually cares about that. He has actually like a good feeling when he purchasing like a product. So the consumer actually, so they seek like a positive experience when they decide to make like a purchase, and when they can relate to the brand and understand the origin and production process of a product, and the product, so that actually fosters the trust. So in the end, just to get like this that image, okay, I can trust the brand, so I can trust
Got it.
the
Yeah.
brand Vaude, and
Yeah.
so I have a good feeling with that. To just
So,
get
Mm.
this the perception, you need to do all those big work with all the certifications, tracing your sustainability. No, the tracing your the supply chain, upstream supply chain, just to get in the end like that the customer is kind of got this kind of trust in your brand, because this trust
Got
from
it.
customer is fragile and must be needed with care, and also can be easily damaged.
so now when we come back to the distinction between true and visible sustainability, what is the consumer caring more about? Then it would be then the true sustainability, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So in the end, he's caring about the true sustainability and the visible sustainability. That's more like gaining attention also to the dealer, gaining like USP points. But it also is not the greenwashing, I would say. It's also important to say, hey, we can make now products out from waste tires, for example, out from like the old car tires. We can make now the outdoor products out of that due to the recycling process. Or we can use here also like very organic, like cultivated the cotton crops, for example. So in the end, it is not bad, but it should be not the only focus in the end.
But did it change over the last couple of years? Because I mean, especially when you're in the outdoor sector, this kind of like this consciousness about sustainability is also becoming much more sophisticated, so that actually consumers really now understand more about what type of materials exist, you know, maybe even distinguish between different recycling possibilities, chemical versus mechanical. Do you have the feeling that it has changed, that they really go that deep, or is it still simply the good feeling?
I just can say it from our direct customers, and our direct customers are the dealers, and the dealers they definitely have that have involved. They get also now sustainability departments. They're really looking behind that, and they're also having now like purchasing requirements, eco requirements you need to fulfill if you want to be like a customer, if you want to be also as a customer or as a supplier, as a brand listed under the like eco flag or eco corner. So you need to fulfill certain criteria. Often also you need nowadays to have all those certifications, what we actually pioneered in the very beginning. And the consumer knows more about it, and he's also questioning more about that. But in the end, it comes to the purpose of the product. And if the functional aspect is not actually there, the consumer is not making the choice to that. Because we're talking here about sportswear products.
Yeah, I agree. If a same feeling in most sustainable products, those that really become a success have function first. Like it needs to properly function and exceed or be at market acceptance before you can add sustainability, or it can be the other way around at large scale. You just mentioned certification and you guys pioneering that. Could you talk a little bit more about what certifications you pioneered or what you're looking at right now and implementing from your perspective?
So it was before my time, I guess. We started in 2001, 2006. So please don't name me on the number, but we were one of the first Blue Sign system partners. So Blue Sign is like a chemical certification system, chemical management system, to also so that you don't have like any hazardous chemicals in your textile production. So especially in the dyeing and the finishing processes. And we were one of the first there. So nobody actually from the consumer knew about that, but we knew that we need to have some kind of system actually, which can handle also for our suppliers. So the entire chemical management, and that was something what we pioneered. One of the first, and our supply chain partners, they were first not that amused of getting now like a certification system, being audited, also becoming like a system partner and need to pay for that. But in the end, they also have seen that, okay, more and more brands are asking for that. And also they need to be somehow on the safe side. They also need somehow to prove that they're working like clean, that they're working with like sustainable or less hazardous chemicals. And that's why you have certifications, because even so, me and you, we know that this guy is working great, but someone else does not know that. And that's why you always need to have like this external certification, even if it's sometimes like really a pain in the ass, because you need to pay a lot of money, which is not making it like a better product. and what is also not bringing you anything really to the end consumer, because the end consumer just wants to know if it's like a sustainable product or not. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's like the big challenge, and it's also the challenge when you do like the really chain of custody certification, where every part of your supply chain, every process partner is in the end like certified, and provides further like the transition certificate um, via manual or even like in a blockchain. But everybody needs to be somehow certified and also need to
Yeah.
pay for that. And that's and to renew the certification every year or every second year. That costs a lot of money in the end, and that's like a big problem. That so far everybody is a bit like so. I'm just talking for the mid-sized companies, enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
They are a bit conscious in this case. They're a bit careful.
Mm-hmm.
But I also can tell you very much, and just straight ahead, that I'm very optimistic that there will come up regulations that will be introduced and making the required resources available, along with the establishment of uniform standards, because it will come to that point that it's like mandatory to have those kind of certifications, especially on the European market, to bring our products on the European market. And then actually, when it's mandatory, then you have to do
Yeah.
that. But still, the big challenge is the financial one.
Do you think it's a good thing that regulation will step in and make it mandatory? Is that good or bad?
I think it's good. It will be probably difficult for some brands. Also, it will be perhaps difficult also for us, who were like pioneering it and being one of the first one to have a lot of those certifications and paid a lot of money for that, and then introducing it, and then sooner or later everybody will have it. But in the end, when you want to have like a true sustainability, we're coming back to the true sustainability, then you need to
Mm.
make those commitments, and then you also need to do that. That's becoming a part of the
Yeah.
game.
Exactly, because what you were saying, I think that's at the core of what we believe as well. Like you and I might know a supplier and believe in his blue eyes and that they're doing the right thing, but the global supply chain is, you're talking about millions of suppliers, right? You can't trust all of them; it's impossible. So, in order to really prevent greenwashing and all kinds of statements being made that might not be true, having certifications and third party assessments are crucial. But yeah, you need to make that in a more standardized way, and everybody needs to play the game essentially.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
like.
maybe for example, just to give you one more example on that, because when I'm going to the farmer's market and buy my vegetables, and I know the farmer, personally, I know how he is doing his farming. Then I do not need any certification from him. But if I do not
No,
know him actually, then of course I would like to have some kind of organic certification from him,
yeah.
and just to see that. And it's
And
also
most
like,
products we don't buy directly from the farmer,
yeah.
right?
So in the end, when you
So
when you go in the supermarket and you buy your vegetables, especially in Germany, people are very very careful looking when it's like, or how it's certified on that. So if they
yeah,
want to
yeah,
purchase like organic milk or organic vegetables or whatever, organic certified, sustainable, harvested, and yeah.
Yeah, but I like the fact that you see it optimistically in the end, and I think this is what we also try to kind of make clear, that it's through these also collaborations that will be fostered through these kind of certifications. There is a lot of new things that might evolve in terms of innovation, and I think this is a good reason for being optimistic. Because I'm just looking at the time. One last question that I wanted to ask especially like looking forward, because you obviously, as we just heard, you're leaders in your field. And now coming back again to the material topic, how do you see the future actually of sustainable polymer technologies in especially in the textile sector in the next decade? Like, what are, those the most innovative steps, and would from an optimistic perspective again, what are you excited about?
So from a very optimistic perspective, I would say that we will not introduce too many new material types because, to be honest, in the last 20, 30 years, no, no new material type has been actually really commercialized and really scaled up in our industry. That's why I also do not really believe that in 10 years we will have a lot of new material types on a commercial level. Perhaps on some kind of applications, we might have some interesting polymers which also have like a true biodegradability, where it's sometimes like when you're looking on shoe soles, for example, where it's really not possible to get rid of this unintended the loss of material. Well, it definitely makes sense. So probably here we see innovations, but we will see a lot of innovations coming from like the feedstock, and I'm pretty sure about that because now when we're seeing with like PET, where it's right now super easy to make like sustainable PET when you're using recycled PET from bottles. Those bottles we will not use in future anymore in textiles because just to the quotas the packaging industry has um, by incorporating recycled content, we just don't have anything left. So there won't be anything left for us. And meaning we cannot replace this one single feedstock with one other single feedstock. So we will have different approaches, a lot of different sources
Like that.
to get it from more sustainable sources. CCU, we're talking about carbon capture utilization, where there are a lot of regulatory boundaries, a lot of skepticism about it, mass balancing, where this will definitely in the next years also been making the fast transition kind of possible. But also I see in the next decade that more biochemical processes will come online and to also make the products a bit in the process more efficient and even on a smaller scale that you do not need perhaps those really large Verbund sites. Perhaps it also can make like a smaller facility, which you also can install then like in other parts of the world where you do not have right now any infrastructure but a demand. Talking about Africa, for example, or some parts of Southeast China, Southeast Asia. So that's when, and also textile recycling. There will be coming up something. We need to see if it will involve, but when it will involve, then it will be. We will see in the next decade because it will take time until all those factories are built up, commercial plants are scaled up, and also we need to see if it's a viable business model because so far it's definitely not.
Cool. Then I would like to close with this very optimistic outlook. And the question if this will be a viable business model, we will answer in the next podcast, or maybe in 10 years. But there's still actually one last question that I didn't actually prepare you for. Because we have a Plastic Climate Future playlist, and we always ask in the end our guests to mention one song that connects either to the topic or to the guest himself or herself, or is simply just a cool song.
I got one. I just need to quickly look.
Yeah, take your time.
the
Take your
detailed
time.
title because that's fitting, I guess, perfectly in here. And also perhaps from the title and also for our listeners,
Yeah.
they also think,
We
okay,
had Chemical Brothers. We already have on it, for example.
no, I'm more like traditional music, where actually people are playing like instruments like guitar, bass guitar, and yeah. So what I will give you with here is yeah, 10 years after, I'd love to change the world.
Ah, that's cool. Very good. Very good. That's
Awesome.
very cool.
That is
Yeah.
from the 70s. It's a really cool song, and yeah. So in the end, I also love to change the world, but it's a very long way. So it is like a lifetime achievement in the end.
Yeah, one important thing is to create the awareness, and I think this is also already a contribution that you've been here, because this is what we're trying to do also. So you've done your part for tonight, at least. Yeah, thanks a lot again, René. And as I mentioned, like latest in 10 years, we talk about the business model.
Perhaps, or actually, one closing remark: if it's not economic viable, then we need regulation.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. Thanks, Renee.